Welcome back to briefing. This one is on our regular weekly briefing. Thank you for staying on from the special briefing that we just had on the visit of Vice President. I have an announcement to make, and then we will take a few of the questions that you may have. This is regarding the visit of the Honorable Prime Minister to Indonesia for the G20 summit. As you heard, Prime Minister had mentioned that he would be visiting Indonesia next week. Prime Minister will be visiting Bali, Indonesia from November 14th to November 16th to attend the 17th G20 summit at the invitation of the President of Indonesia, His Excellency Mr. Joko Widodo. During the Bali summit, G20 leaders will deliberate extensively upon key issues of global concern under the summit's theme of Recover Together, Recover Stronger. 3 working sessions will be held as part of the G20 summit agenda, as you know. Food and energy security is one, health is the other, and finally, digital transformation. At the closing session of the summit, President Widodo will symbolically hand over the G20 presidency to Prime Minister Shri Nirav Modi. India will, of course, formally assume the G20 presidency from 1st of December of this year. On the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister will hold bilateral meetings with some of his counterparts. Prime Minister will also address and interact with the Indian community in Bali. So that was our announcement of the Prime Minister's visit. I'm happy to repeat, although they will probably be on the website of the G20. The 3 sessions are on food and energy security is one, health is the second, and digital transformation is the third. Okay, questions please. Okay, let me start with you. Microphone please.
Sir, Meghna Dev from DD News. Sir, we heard the news of the fire in Mali. What is the situation? It's been reported that some Indians have also died. Is there a number, and what are we doing about it?
I saw some other hand. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sanjay from Arab News. My question is regarding the arrest of 8 Navy officers in Qatar. What information you have about the reasons they have been detained for in Qatar, and what kind of support you are providing them right now? And the third question and the last one is,
you do know we take one question, but since
yes,
a similar
yes,
topic, I'll allow
similar,
it.
yes.
Go ahead.
It's about like how it's going to impact the bilateral relations between India and Qatar. Thank you.
Okay. Somebody else had a hand in. 1 second. I'll come to you. Siddhant, go ahead.
Sir, we saw earlier this month the so-called Khalistani referendum in Canada. India had several times raised this issue over this referendum. Have you raised the matter again with the Canadians, or issued a demarche, or perhaps summoned the ambassador as well?
You have some other suggestions? I'm happy to go down that list. Who else had a hand up? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'll come to you. Yeah.
Sir, this is Akhilesh Suman from Sansad TV. It is about Maldives thing that what, according to your own information, that is it a sabotage, some type of criminal act, or it is just an accident?
Okay. I'll take one more this round. You had raised your hand. I'll come to you. Give me a second. Yes, please.
Sir, this is Abhishek from CNN News 18. Sir, my question is regarding Zulfikar Khan, who disappeared in Kenya 4 months ago. There was reports that Indian investigative officers were there and they were doing some collaborative investigation report. If you could update us on the current situation.
Sure. Okay, let me start with a very unfortunate incident in Male. I think it was the last night. Look, what we understand is a tragic accident, a tragic incident. I don't yet know. Somebody asked me the details of it. Tragic incident last night in the city of Male in Maldives. A fire broke out in a residential building for foreign workers. Some versions say that there was a garage nearby or in the building. We're looking at the details. This building housed foreign workers, including Indian citizens. There are reports of a number of deaths due to the fire. As I walked in, I saw that our High Commission there has clarified that local authorities have indicated at least 10 bodies have been found. Local authorities are engaged in identifying the dead bodies. Our High Commission is in close contact with the Maldivian authorities at various levels. And of course, our High Commission is extending all possible assistance to the affected Indians and their families. They have also opened a helpline number, which you have seen on the Twitter. It's a very, very unfortunate development. But till such time that we are able to identify the dead bodies as Indian citizens, I would not like to comment or confirm how many have passed away. And we would rather wait for our High Commission as well as the local authorities to give a clearer indication of how many of these 10 are Indian citizens. So for the moment, this is all I can say. It's a very developing story, but we will certainly be closely looking at what further news that we can share with you as the evening progresses. You had asked, I think, Akhilesh, whether there is a risk of sabotage. Look, I don't think this is appropriate for me to speculate on that. This is something that the authorities will do. Initial reports indicate a fire in a building. We will go with that. But there is nothing to indicate either way that there was something more to it. But I understand that the Maldivian government has announced a thorough investigation into it. So let's wait for details of that, as well as let's see all the efforts to rescue whoever else is affected by that. Moving on to the issue, I think, of Sanjay, you had raised about the Indians who are in Qatar. Look, I think we tried to address that last week, and I'll just give you a slight update on that. Needless to say, we are obviously following this case very closely. Our embassy in Doha is in regular touch with the local authorities with regard to further consular access. As I mentioned last week, there was one round of consular access there, and also trying to get visit of family members of the detained Indian nationals there. We have, as I said, trying all efforts to ensure that this issue is resolved. You mentioned three parts of your question. What support, what are the charges, or this you will have to ask the Qatari authorities. I would not like to either speculate or talk about legal issues without knowing the full details. On the support, I mentioned to you that we have been trying to get more access and support to the families as well as to the Indian nationals. And your question on impacting on bilateral relations, I don't know how that is relevant. I think India and Qatar have very good ties, and I'm not sure individual consular issues are, relate to the impact that, unless there is something further to that. At this point, I see no reason to even comment on it. कौन सा पार्ट? इन्होंने 3 प्रश्न पूछे थे, तीनों के लिए। ठीक है, देखिए, जैसे मैंने अभी कहा, ये कतर के मामले में जहाँ पे हमारे 8 इंडियन सिटीजन्स भूतपूर्व सैनिक वहाँ पे हैं, हमने पहले पिछले हफ्ते इसके बारे में कहा था, उसके पहले भी कहा था कि बारीकी से नज़र रखे हुए हैं इस मुद्दे पर। दोहा में हमारा दूतावास इस पे काम कर रहा है। हिरासत में लिए गए भारतीय नागरिकों को परिवार के सदस्यों और उनके पास डायरेक्टली कॉन्सुलर एक्सेस की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, और उनकी यात्रा, फैमिली मेम्बर्स की यात्रा के संबंध में स्थानीय अधिकारियों से साथ नियमित संपर्क में हैं, और हम आशा ही करते हैं कि ये जल्दी से जल्दी हो पाए। और इन्होंने पूछा था कि हम किस लिए उनको हिरासत में रखा है। ये कतर अथॉरिटी से पूछना ठीक रहेगा, क्योंकि इसमें लीगल इम्प्लीकेशन हो सकती हैं। और बायलैटरल रिलेशंस पे हमारे कतर के साथ रिलेशंस बहुत मजबूत अच्छे हैं, और कोई इंडिविजुअल कंसुलर केस ऐसे बायलैटरल रिलेशंस पे नॉर्मली इम्पैक्ट नहीं करता है, अनलेस उसमें और भी कुछ डेवलपमेंट्स हों। मेरे पास इस समय उस ऐसे कोई दिशा में कोई कमेंट नहीं करना चाहूँगा जिसमें मुझे लगे कि इसमें बायलैटरल रिलेशंस पे इम्पैक्ट हो सके। Siddhant, you had raised an issue which we have been talking about quite a lot regarding the so-called referendum that has been, in 2 parts, and I think 6 November, as you yourself mentioned. I've stated our position pretty clearly, but so I don't want to repeat at length what we have said. But as you are aware, on a number of occasions, we have made our objections clear on the so-called referendum and the politically motivated exercises by extremist elements there. This has also been conveyed clearly to the Canadian government, both in New Delhi as well as in Canada. And we will continue to raise our concerns with the Canadian government. Abhishek, you had raised the issue of another consular, yeah, there you are. In Kenya this time, a consular, and developments there. Look, as you are aware, again, we have discussed it earlier, there are two Indian nationals, Mr. Mohammad Zaid Sami Kidwai and Mr. Mohammad Zulfikar Ahmed Khan, who have been missing in Kenya since July, 23rd of July. This case remains under active investigation by the Kenyan authorities, as far as I understand. An Indian investigation team visited Nairobi from November 1st to 3rd. They met the Department of Public Prosecution and the Department of Criminal Investigation of the Kenyan government. The Indian team offered to the Kenyan side all help in this case, including assistance in DNA analysis or forensic analysis that the Kenyan side may require to help them carry out their investigations. And we are following developments related to the case very closely, and we are also in touch with the affected Indian families. Our High Commission has been in touch with them. So that's the update I would like to share with you. Next round of questions. You had raised your hand first, then I'll come to you.
Sir, times now, Srinjoy. As you know, there are about 70 or 80 people, Indians, who have been on a ship and they are stuck in the Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria area since August. And some efforts have also been made by the Indian government to try and get them back. They have been accused of stealing petroleum. What is the state of the situation now?
Who else? Before you, please. Yes, Shashank, go ahead. No, not her. You had one round, no? Let me just ask Shashank. Yeah.
Shashank Matumit. So regarding the Vice President's visit to ASEAN and East Asia...
That was late. You just finished the presser. But anyway, I'll happy to answer something more.
The Australians are sending Prime Minister Albanese, the Americans are sending President Biden, and it seems that Prime Minister Modi is the only major coordinator who will not be in ASEAN and at the East Asia Summit. Will this be seen as a missed opportunity precisely because lots of bilateral meetings, very important bilateral meetings are taking place there?
You were not present in the previous presser? Okay. Yeah, I'll come to you. Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, I'm Prashant from Asianet News. Actually, there is a recent news that these sailors who are detained in Equatorial Guinea, they may be moved to Nigeria. So what are the efforts of the High Commission on this matter?
Related to the same question, right? Yeah, who else was there? I'll come to you, ma'am, before we... Unless it's a related question, separate. Yeah.
सर मधुरेंद्र न्यूज़ नेशन से चीन का जो स्पाई शिप है युआन वांग 6 उसका मूवमेंट इंडियन ओशन में लगातार जारी है, जिसके चलते भारत को अपने बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल टेस्ट के डेट भी चेंज करने पड़े हैं। किस तरह से इंडिया दरअसल इस पूरे मूवमेंट को देख रहा है? इससे पहले भी जब उसका स्पाई शिप आया था युआन वांग 5, तब भी हमने प्रोटेस्ट जाहिर किया था, लेकिन उसका कोई असर चीन पर नहीं पड़ रहा है और हमारे सामरिक हितों को लगातार चीन की तरफ से चैलेंज मिल रहा है।
मैं कुछ कहूँगा बाद में। किसका हाथ था? No, I'll come to you, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Elena, TASS News Agency. What is your assessment of the results of the visit of Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Jaishankar, to Moscow? And what is interesting much is was during the visit discussed, discussed or not the preparations for annual India-Russia summit, because it's usually held in December and we see it's already the middle of November. So do you have information when it will be held and where and in what format? By video conference or in personal?
Okay, thank
you. It will be personal meetings.
Thank you. I'll take this round and come. I see a few more hands. I'll take another round then. Okay. Srinjoy, I don't know if there are 70 to 80 you mentioned. I certainly don't have that kind of numbers in terms of how many people are there. Yes, we are aware of a case. There is a consular issue there in Equatorial Guinea. Our understanding is there are 16 Indian sailors, but I could be. Look, these are consular issues. I am always hesitant to go into specifics, but at least 16 Indian sailors is what I understand from that ship, which has other people of other nationalities also. The ship is, I think, a motor vehicle, a motor ton H Heroic Idun, I think is the name of that vessel. Let me mention that our missions in Malabo, which is the capital of Equatorial Guinea, and in Abuja of Nigeria, are both these missions are closely engaged with their respective local authorities in this case. We are also in touch with the detained sailors. We have actually had several rounds of consular access to these sailors. We are making all efforts for the early resolution of this issue. In fact, just before I came in, I had a chance to speak to our head of the Chargé d'Affaires in Malabo. He told me that the sailors are still in Equatorial Guinea. Yes, there were some reports. I think one of you asked about, Prashant, I think you asked about whether they were moved to Nigeria. Yes, we also saw some reports that they might be, Nigeria has asked them to be sent to Nigeria. But look, I would not like to go into details of legal aspects. As of right now, they appear to be in Equatorial Guinea. And we are, as I said, in touch with authorities in both Equatorial Guinea and Nigeria to find a resolution to this issue. I would not like to comment on the charges or what is the legal process. We will extend all consular assistance we can to these individuals. मधुरेंद्र जी, आपने मतलब आपका प्रश्न किस तरह से उत्तर दूं मैं श्योर नहीं हूं, क्योंकि आपने बड़े सारे स्टेटमेंट्स दिए जिसमें मैं हो सकता है किसी से भी सहमत ना हूं. आपने कहा हमने डेट चेंज कर लिया हमारे बैलिस्टिक मिसाइल का क्योंकि चीनी शिप आ गई. मुझे तो ये नहीं मालूम था. दूसरा, हमें मालूम है चीनी शिप कहाँ है, मुझे नहीं हो सकता हमारे एजेंसीज को मालूम हो. फिर आपने और भी कुछ कहा. तो एनीवे, मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहता हूँ इस ऐसे मुद्दों पर. ऐसे पहले भी हमने प्रश्न पूछा था जब ऐसी एक शिप आ गई थी श्रीलंका के पास में. पर मैं सिर्फ ये कहूँगा कि हमारे नज़र से जो भी हमारे लिए स्टेप्स लेने होते हैं हमारे सिक्योरिटी के लिए, उसके लिए हम हमेशा लेते रहते हैं. हमारे अथॉरिटीज़ इसके बारे में हमेशा सतर्क रहते हैं और वो ऐसे स्टेप्स लेते हैं. इसके आगे कुछ कहना सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज़ पे ठीक नहीं होगा, तो इसीलिए मैं इतना ही कहना चाहूँगा. Okay. Look, as I said in the beginning, Madhurendra's questions had lots of statements which I am not in agreement with. His basic point was about a ship, a Chinese vessel. All I can say is that, look, on such issues, government always takes necessary measures to safeguard our security and other interests. And I think on such security issues, we would not like to make any additional comment beyond that. Ileana, you had mentioned about the assessment of the visit of our External Affairs Minister. He had, he had just returned from Moscow on his visit. We had discussed it a bit. I am always happy when External Affairs Minister then has a joint press conference, like he did, press interaction with the Russian Foreign Minister. And I would have to refer you to that. I think EM in his opening remarks gave a very comprehensive overview of his interactions in Moscow. Obviously, as he himself said, it's an important relationship. It was a positive visit. And they had an opportunity to discuss with Mr. Manturov, His Excellency Deputy Prime Minister, a whole entire range of different issues on the economic side that the two countries deal with the multi-sectoral teams on both sides, and as well as subsequently with the foreign minister. I had discussed various issues that of interest, and I liked his perspective of saying that we discuss them from our own vantage points, perspectives. I'm not sure I have anything particular to add to that. I certainly would not be in a position to share what they discussed beyond that, whether it is on the India-Russia summit. I'm not sure there's a specific date. You've mentioned correctly that it does take place sometimes in December, but there have been occasions where it takes place on other times. I don't have any update to share on that, on the annual summit dates or locations or format at this point. As I said, I don't have an update to share at this point. Shashank, you had mentioned a question, you had asked a question which is already asked. I'm itching to say that I have nothing beyond what Secretary said, which is a safer one. But I'll just add, look, participation in various events, high-level events, is also based on the calendars and the availability of our leaders. And as Secretary mentioned, it was decided this time that Vice President would represent India. at this important meeting. I don't think that in any way is a downgrading or anything negative should be associated with that. I certainly would not say that is a missed opportunity for Prime Minister being there or not. I think it's important that India is there at this special commemorative summit, and both for these India-ASEAN as well as for the East Asia Summit. And you heard Secretary explain at length the importance we attach to this visit as well as to these events, and also the bilateral interaction, the engagements that we are looking at with Cambodia and some of the other countries there. Okay, so that last round of questions, if I can add in. You really want a second one, but I have to give him for a second.
Avinash Agarwal from Masai Shimbu. Sir, could you please tell me if during the visit of the Prime Minister to Bali to attend the G20 summit, some bilateral meetings have also been scheduled, or are they being scheduled? If you could give us some details.
Okay, Kalol.
Kalol from The Hindu. So there are reports that President Putin will not be traveling to Bali. So in that context, do you think that's a setback to the G20? That he's not traveling, and also is it a setback to the dialogue process for the Ukraine crisis?
Okay, and there are more other questions. Okay, please go ahead. You are on hold. Sorry, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead.
सर, कल के अदालती फैसले के बाद नीरव मोदी,
आप एड्रेस,
मेरा नाम संजीव त्रिवेदी,
मुझे मालूम है।
टेलीविजन चैनल से। सर, कल के अदालती फैसले के बाद नीरव मोदी के प्रत्यर्पण से जुड़ी और कौन-कौन सी कार्यवाही है, उसका डिटेल जरा बताएं।
नीरव मोदी एक्सट्रेडिशन के बारे में ना? Okay. If there's nobody else, you are the one. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you have. Sorry, too late. I missed you, Geeta.
सर, कविता हूँ हरिभूमि से। सर, मैं जो डिफेंस आर्म्स डीलर है संजय भंडारी, उनके भारत प्रत्यर्पण को लेकर के यूके कोर्ट का ऑर्डर आया है, उसके बारे में मतलब क्या विदेश मंत्रालय की तरफ से कोई कार्रवाई?
जी, उनके एक्सट्रेडिशन के बारे में। ओके, गीता, you can take a seat if you want.
My question is on the Zulfikar Khan case. You've just elaborated, but just wanted to know whether if there has been a response to the family members who've sought meetings with External Affairs Minister on the matter, and also there has been no proof of life, but and there has been no official communication of whether if he is alive or dead or whatever. So does MEA have an update on that front as well?
Okay, I see no further questions, so let me take this round of it. Let me start. संजीव और कविता जी, आपने कहा था इसके बारे में, जो दोनों एक्सट्रेडिशन केसेस के बारे में आपने प्रश्न पूछा था। देखिए, इसके बारे में जैसा कि आप दोनों को अलग अलग लेता हूँ। एक हमारे हमने पहले भी कह रखा है कि ऐसे एक्सट्रेडिशन केसेस में जहाँ से इकोनॉमिक फ्यूजिटिव्स हम कहते हैं, इनके बारे में हम हमेशा से कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि ये इंडिया वापस आए और यहाँ पे हमारे कानूनी सिस्टम को ये फेस करें। हमने देखा है कि ब्रिटेन के उच्च न्यायालय ने कल नीरव मोदी जी के एक्सट्रेडिशन के खिलाफ अपील को खारिज कर दी थी। हम इस कदम का स्वागत करते हैं और उसे और अन्य आर्थिक भगोड़ों को भारत में न्याय का सामने करने के लिए अपने प्रयासों को जारी रखेंगे। आपको जैसे मालूम है, इसमें काफ़ी स्टेप्स होते हैं और ये एक स्टेप है और जिसको हम स्वागत करते हैं। इसी तरह हमने भंडारी का भी केस के बारे में देखा है कि वहाँ एक दूसरे न्यायालय ने हम उनके एक्सट्रेडिशन के बारे में पॉजिटिव एक रूलिंग दी है और इसके बाद कुछ और स्टेप्स हैं। मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहूँगा वहाँ पे भी कि हम लोग लगातार इस इशू पर नज़र बनाए हुए हैं। कोशिश हमारी जारी रहती है कि ये लोग जो नहीं हैं इंडिया में, हम इनको किस तरह से जल्दी इंडिया ला पाएँ और ताकि यहाँ पे हमारे न्याय का सामना कर पाएँ ये लोग। इसके आगे अभी मेरे पास कोई और अपडेट दे नहीं सकता हूँ क्योंकि ये लीगल प्रोसेस है। I always try to do that, but as you know, this is not always 100% a translation of that, so I'll explain to you our perspective on this. Wanted to emphasize that India has been vigorously pursuing the extradition of economic fugitives so that they face justice in India. In this regard, yesterday there was a UK High Court decision dismissing an appeal against the extradition of Nirav Modi. We welcome this step, and we will continue with our efforts to get him back as well as other economic fugitives, to face justice in India. Similarly, Mr. Sanjay Bhandari was also another similar case where we have seen another court giving a decision against his or in favor of extraditing him to India. This is usually a lengthy process, but we will continue to make all efforts in this regard so that, as I said, economic fugitives can come back to India to face our justice system. On the Avinash, you had asked about bilateral meetings. Yes, there will be bilateral meetings, and I will put a full stop there. We will certainly share with you as and when they happen, or closer to the date perhaps. At this point, I do not wish to share further details. Kalor, your question is, where are you? Yes, extremely speculative, and I would like to not speculate on it. Yes, I think I read an announcement that the Russian president would not be able to participate in the G20, but look, you'll have to ask the Russian government on the confirmation of this. I don't think that's something we can say. If he is not coming, you are presuming that's a setback. I'm not confirming that or sharing that opinion. I think for various reasons, sometimes people are unable to attend such summits. I recall perhaps even last year he wasn't able to make it to Rome due to some other reasons. So I would not like to comment on that. I don't think it's a setback to the G20. We have now in the process of taking over the presidency, but I think I'll answer on behalf of the presidency of the G20 only after 1st December. Till then you can ask the Indonesians on the G20's overall impact or not. And on the issue of the larger issue of dialogue, I don't know whether one visit or the other makes that much of a difference. I'm certainly not in a position to speculate on that. Geeta, you mentioned, you referred to the issue. I've just answered about what we have been trying to do to assist this. Look, again, in the area of speculation whether they are alive or not, we would hope they are. And certainly we are making all efforts to track these missing persons. And we certainly hope, as I said, that they are alive. Whether they have got a meeting with External Affairs Minister or whether they've even sought a meeting with External Affairs Minister, I'm sorry, I am not in a position to confirm. As you know, External Affairs Minister has been traveling and he will be going tomorrow with the Vice President. I don't know if that came out in the presser. External Affairs Minister will be a part of the Vice President's delegation going to Cambodia tomorrow. So maybe that is part of it, but you'll have to ask the External Affairs Minister's office for any details on this issue. I certainly don't have one. But I can tell you that our High Commission in Kenya, certainly, and including the High Commissioner, is in touch with the family members there. We are hoping that there is progress, and that is exactly the reason why our team went to Kenya to see if we could assist, and that offer is there, and we will continue to be engaged with the Kenyan authorities to see, as I say, early solution and hopefully finding these missing persons soon. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Sorry, you have more? You have another one? Okay. Yeah, okay. Tell me quickly. Yeah, I think we're running out of time.
Sir, there is media reports on the visit of Saudi Crown Prince. So if you could just tell us something about that.
I haven't made an announcement yet on that, so I'm afraid I don't have anything to share on that. If not, I would have had to share. But yes, it would. We are working towards that. But let's see. At an appropriate time, we will certainly share with you. Thank you.
Belarus Minister for Foreign Affairs was here, and yesterday he met Dr. Jaishankar. Do you have any information what they discussed, what was in the center of the visit, and why this visit happened so fast? Because as far as I remember, he was here already in May or June, no?
Look, you seem to put a very negative question to it. Why did the visit happen? It happened. I hope visits are useful, and I hope... Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Microphone.
I'm Akhilesh Suman from Sansad TV. Again, Belarus foreign minister was here and he met EM Jaishankar. So, was there any discussion about Ukraine-Russia war? Because Belarus has been very active during this war, and many questions were also raised against Belarus involvement. So, what was India's stand when he talked to Foreign Minister of
Okay,
Belarus?
I will separate that questions into two very clear parts. Let me just quickly mention, as you know, the External Affairs Minister did put out something in social media about his meeting. The Foreign Minister of Belarus, His Excellency Mr. Vladimir Makei, is actually here. He's leaving later tonight. He's here largely for the Intergovernmental Commission meeting, which took place today. And he also met some other officials here, including External Affairs Minister. That's broadly what I have at this moment to share, because the visit's still going on, and we'll see if there's anything further that we need to share. As regards the conversations, look, I'm hesitant to get into privileged conversations, but on the larger issue of our position on Ukraine, I don't think it needs repetition again. We have been pushing for dialogue and diplomacy, and you know that very well. As I said, if I start putting a microphone to every private conversation, it will not go well. So let me close it at that. Thank you.